Your apps will often require users to enter information into a text field. The most common example out there is signing up the user for your application. Besides taking user input, we are also required to validate that information. And finally, if the user has correctly filled out the form, we are required to process that information, or in case of the incorrect information, we are expected to display a friendly error message letting them know what went wrong. While all of this is possible with Flutter using the text field and the text editing controller widget, Flutter offers a much more intuitive and a scalable solution with its Form widget. Without further ado, let's move on to coding part of this tutorial where I explain you the use of form with an example. As I told you, the most common example of using form is while signing up the user to your application. Therefore, I'm also going to build an app where I'm going to sign up my user using the form widget. I'm not going to build the app from scratch because I don't want this video to be too long. So this is going to be the skeleton of our app where the screens are going to be the home screen and the sign up screen. I have already implemented the home screen and that is not the necessary part, so I'm not going to show you how to code it, but basically it displays our content that we are going to take from the user. And our main file is basic Flutter file, except that inside the home I'm returning the sign up screen widget, which is found inside our sign up screen. It is the stateful widget, and we are also importing the home screen here so that we can register the route to our home screen. This home screen dot route name is nothing but a static constant found inside our home screen, which is a string that says /home. Okay, let's now move on to our sign up screen and let's start implementing our build method. Our build method is going to return a scaffold because this is a screen, and here we can skip the app bar part because the sign up screen usually do not contain any app bars, so we can directly jump to the body part. The body part is going to have a parameter of padding widget because I want my form to have some padding, and the padding is going to be of constant edge insets dot all 16, and the child of our padding widget is going to be a list view so that our form is scrollable, and whenever the keyboard is active it doesn't interrupts with the view of the user. Before we start providing the children of our list view, let me show you how we start building form inside our Flutter app. For that, we just need to wrap our root widget with a form widget, and the root widget inside inside our sign up screen is nothing but the padding widget. So I'm going to refactor my padding widget and wrap it with a widget. The widget is going to be form, and this is not enough because we also need to provide a global key. The global key is going to be a runtime constant. Let me spell final correctly, and it is going to be known as form key. It is going to be a global key, and global key is of type generic, so we need to provide a specific type here. The type is going to be the form state type, and this is how we build our key, and we just need to assign that key to our form widget. So this is how we do that. We require this form key so that we are able to validate our various forms and later on save our form. I will show you at the end of this coding part how to do that. Now let us go on to the children of our list view. Usually while taking input from the user, we use the text field, right? But while building the form, we do not use the text field. Instead, we use the text form field. It is quite similar to the text field, just there are some key differences which help us to validate and save our field. So this is going to be the text form field. Here, first of all, we are going to provide some decoration. The decoration is going to be the input decoration, and the input decoration, inside our input decoration, I'm going to provide only one type of decoration, that is the label text. The label text, first of all, is going to be username, and that's all decoration I'm going to provide because quite frankly, the decoration part is not the focus of this video. So I'm going to move further. And here I want to implement two methods. The two methods are the validator. Validator is a parameter which takes in a function which either returns a string value or a null value, and this function itself requires a string value as its parameter. So let's start implementing that. This is going to be, we are going to make an anonymous function here, and as you can see here, this function requires a parameter. So I'm going to name my parameter as value. This value is going to be provided by Flutter itself, and this value is nothing but the input typed out by our user. So now we can use this value to validate our input. So either if our value is null, or our value is empty, then then we know that the user has not filled the information yet. So now we require to return an error message. In order to return an error message, we just need to return a string inside our validator parameter. So here I'm going to return a string saying that this field cannot be empty. And likewise, we can provide some more validation here. Not require any more validation other than that the value should not contain a white space. So we can implement that using the contains method of the string object and check for any if our username contains any white space or not. If it does contains a white space, we can just return another error message saying that the username cannot contain a space. And once all of our validation is done, we need to return one more thing here, and we are going to return a null here. Whenever we return a null inside our validator function, it means that the user has formatted the input correctly. Therefore, there are no errors, and the Flutter can go on and save the form. Okay, now that the validator function has been implemented, we need to implement one more function that is known as onSaved. OnSaved is quite similar to validator parameter except that it doesn't return anything and it is of type void. So we can again we are again going to make an anonymous function which is going to take a parameter known as value that will be provided by Flutter, and that value is nothing but the input of the user. Now we need to save this value. So I'm going to save my information inside a map. So before saving it here, let me create a map inside of a state. The map is going to be the map is going to consist the key and value pair of type string, and the map is going to be known as user info. The map will consist of various keys and values. The first key is going to be username, which will have value initially as empty string. Similarly, the second key is going to be a password. The third key is going to be email. The fourth key is going to be the phone number. And the fifth key is going to be the bio. Now that we have built our map where we are going to store our information, we can go on to the onSaved method and just just change the username value inside our map. So the user info at value at username should be changed to the value variable. We need to assure Flutter here that it cannot be null, so we will provide an exclamation mark over here. So this is how we build our text form field. Now similarly, let us build all other text form fields that we require. So we are going to copy this and paste it over here. And now start implementing the password text form field. We need to change the label text And inside our validator, this is going to be common for all of the fields. Again, we can also check for the white space inside our password field and change this to password from the username. We can also provide some more validation for our password, which are going to be that our length of our value should be greater than or equal to 8. We require that our value should be greater than equal to 8. Therefore, we need to check here that if our value is less than 8, then we need to return an error message. The error message is going to be that password is too short, or we can say that password should be of at least 8 characters. And inside our onSaved method, we are just going to change this key from username to password. Now we can do one more thing here and provide one more parameter inside our text form field, which is going to be the obscure text. We are going to make the obscure text true as the password should not be visible to the user. Now we can implement the third form field, which is going to be our email ID. For our email ID, we are going to change the label text to email ID, and inside our validator, we are again going to check for these two things. Let us change this to email ID instead of the username. We should provide some more validation here. Our validation can be that our email ID contains an character and a dot character. So we can check for it here. So let us see if our email ID does not contain character, or if it does not contain a dot character, then we know that the email ID is incorrectly formatted. Then we can just return an error message saying that email ID is invalid. And if the validator passes through all these if statements, then it should be a correct value and it should return a null. Inside our onSaved method, we again need to change this username key to email. And that's all, I think, for our text form field of email ID. Let us now move on to implementing the phone number field. The phone number field, again, we need to change the label text. It is going to be phone number. For inside our validator, again, we can provide this to validation, just checking that our value of length is not equal to 10. Then we need to return an error message saying that the phone number is not valid. And we also need to make one more change here inside our text form field, and that is to set our keyboard type to text input type dot phone number, so that the user is not able to type in invalid characters. And we also, we forgot to change the onSaved method. So the onSaved method should have phone number instead of the username key. Now let us start implementing our last text form field, which is going to be the bio. Again, our validator should not be a null or empty, and it can contain a white space now, so we can remove this. And I don't think we require any more validation here, because bio can be anything. And the onSaved method, we need to change user, we just need to change it to bio from username. And we can also do one more thing here and give in a max length parameter, so that our field is larger than usual, because the user is going to enter a bio here. I think our text form fields are done here. So now, so that our text form fields are done here, we can do one more thing and provide an elevation button, so that the user is able to submit the form. So we are going to do that and start implementing an elevation button rather. The elevation button is going to contain an onPress method, which is initially let it be an anonymous function that does nothing, and its child is going to be a text saying that sign up, a text saying sign up. And for the implementation of onPress, we are going to do it above our build method. So let me do it here. It should be of type void, and I'm going to call that function as text form. It should not take any parameters, and first of all we need to do the form validation here. We can do the form validation by using the form key. So we are going to write form key dot current state dot validate. So if our validate returns a true, then we know that there are no error. If in case it returns a false, then we know that there is some error. So we can check it inside our if statement for this thing. And if it is true, then we can return from this function and we don't want to do anything. Now that we know that our form is correctly formatted, we can finally save the form. So we can again use the form key to save the form and write here form key dot current state dot save. This is going to execute our onSaved methods of all the text form field found inside our form widget, and it is going to change the value of our user info map. Okay, now once this is done, let us go to our onPress parameter inside our elevated button and provide here save form function. We forgot to do one more thing here, and that is to navigate to other screen. So we are going to do that. We are going to call navigator dot of context and use the dot push name method. The route name we are going to provide use that we have registered inside our main file, that is of home screen dot route name. We need to import the home screen file here, so we can do that. Once the home screen file is imported, as you can see, the error has gone away, and we are also going to provide an argument here that is going to be our user info map, so that we are able to retrieve the value inside our home screen file. Okay, I made a mistake here, and this should not be we are supposed to check for a false value here, so we need to add an exclamation mark before the form key here. And now let us run our app. As you can see, our form is correctly rendered, and before inputting any value, let us try to sign up the user. On clicking the sign up, as you can see, all the error messages are displayed here, and as all the fields are empty, it is showing the correct error message. Now let us try and input some value so we can test our app. The username is going to be, let's say, John, and the password is going to be test12345. Our email ID is going to be john@email.com. Our phone number is going to be, let's say, 123456789 and 0. And we are going to provide some any valid bio here, and let us say the bio is that John is a person, as we all are. And now let us, before signing up the user, let us try and play around this value. If I provide a white space inside of a username, let us see what is the error message now here. As you can see, all other fields are valid and except the username field, and it is showing the correct error message saying that the username cannot contain a space. So let us get rid of that error, and let's say now we remove the dot from our email, and now let us try to sign up. As you can see, again it is showing a correct error message saying that the email ID is not valid. Email ID is invalid because it doesn't contain a dot. So let us try and let us also get rid of that error. And now I think you got the point that how the error message is displayed inside our app. So now that all these values are correct, let us try and sign up. On signing up, our values are retrieved from inside our username map, user info map, and it is displayed on our home screen. The implementation of this part is done by me off screen, and I don't think it is necessary. Hope you found this video helpful and got what you were looking for or learned something new today. If you have any doubts, comment down below and I will surely help you. Thank you for watching this video.